Okay, so part 2 of section 4.6 day 1, because yeah, there's a time limit, just so you know. Okay, so we're done. Example 5, solving this crazy equation. So your denominators here are x plus 2 and x. What I need you to understand in this particular example is that the x plus 2 and the x are completely different. So even though x is in x plus 2, they're completely different numbers. Let me give you an example. If I have a denominator of, doesn't matter what my numerator is, a denominator of 3 and a denominator of 5. My common denominator there is going to be 15, even though 3 is 3 and 5 can be written as 3 plus 2. So if you kind of look at our example here, 3 is x, and 5 would be the x plus 2. But those two things, just because they both have an x in them, does not mean that they are at all related and x is part of that. All right, so it's not like you're going to use a 2x as your common denominator. So in this situation, with the 3 and the 5, you would have a common denominator of 15. You would multiply those two things together. So that's what we're going to do in example 5. We have our x we need to cancel out in the second fraction, and then we have our x plus 2 in the last fraction and the first fraction that we need to cancel out. So x times x plus 2 is going to be our least common denominator. Okay, so that's what I need you to get. I need you to understand that x and x plus 2 are completely different numbers, no matter how even though the x is used in both of them. All right, so our least common denominator, x times x plus 2. So we're going to take each one of those, we're going to take each one of those guys and multiply it by the x times x plus 2. So I'm going to step away from the writing of each term and think of it more like a distributive property. So I am going to rewrite the problem though. 2 over x plus 2 plus 3 over x equals negative x over x plus 2. Maybe that was an ugly x, sorry. Okay, so we're going to take that entire equation and we're going to multiply it by our least common denominator, which is x times x plus 2. All right, so when we take that equation, that common denominator, and we multiply it by that first fraction, the x plus 2's will cancel out, leaving you with a 2 and an x. You multiply those together, so that gives you a 2x. Going to the second fraction, the x and the x will cancel out, so that leaves you with a plus 3 times x plus 2. Then going to the third fraction, the x plus 2's again will cancel out, and that leaves you with a negative x times x, which is negative x squared. So just distributing, that's not showing you that whole big thing like I showed you in example 1 and example 4. I didn't write it all out. I did a little bit more mental math. But again, there's no shame in writing it out. If it helps you to write it out, go ahead and do that. Goal is to get the right answer. All right, so now we're going to distribute in the middle. So I have 2x plus 3x plus 6 equals negative x squared. I have my quadratic going on, so I got to get everything over to one side, and I got to combine like terms. So this 2x plus 3x gives me 5x plus 6 equals negative x squared. Slide that guy over there. Bring the x squared over to one side, to the left-hand side, mostly because I want to make that x squared positive. It's way easier to factor that way. So I'm going to put that right in front. X squared plus 5x plus 6 equals 0. We are all masters at factoring these days, so that is going to factor nice and easily as x plus 3, x plus 2 equal to 0, and then from that I get my two answers of x equals negative 3 and negative 2. Hopefully you were screaming out that answer and you didn't get yelled at by your parents. All right, unfortunately we had to do that in 2 parts, but that is it. It is the solving rational equations part of section 4.6. So I hope you like it. In class tomorrow we will do all the stuff that we need to do to practice that. Have a good night.